Hey, my friend, how are you today? I want to talk to you about something that is just completely life changing for myself and I know for many others. Do you know this when, in a hectic day, you just run from like one activity to another or even one physical place to another? In the morning, you have, to rush to your job. In your job, do you need to take care of something urgent? You need to make some urgent calls, check your emails, and it's like you're always falling behind. There's no way to catch up. There's so much activity and pace in today's world that it seems impossible to find like a quiet ease within yourself. And I think the idea that, the external situation have to determine how we feel inside is probably the most crucial kind of um, illusion or misunderstanding that many people live with, and that cause them to be completely helpless when it comes to, you know, avoiding inner stress and not letting external stress become internal stress. Um, there's one of my most inspirational teachers, spiritual teachers in the world, um, besides Sadhguru, Eckhart Tolle. So Eckhart Tolle, he describes this really, really well, but not only he, Sadhguru describes it as well, and every other significant teacher that I've ever been in touch with have spoken about this. There is a distinction between what's our outer purpose and what's our inner purpose, or what's our primary purpose and what's our secondary purpose. And this distinction is so crucial. Buddha has talked about this, that it's about the path, not the destination. I believe it was him, and so many others have spoken about this as well. So when we do something, when we try to get somewhere, and in our mind we already have the destination in mind, then what happens is that we are creating an illusion in our mind that we are actually trying to be somewhere else than where we currently are. And so what we do in that moment and the way we are kind of becomes completely contaminated, um, because we're not there anymore. Like, in our perception, we're somewhere else, and this gap creates an enormous amount of stress. So when we try to chase things, activities, and we try to do them with the outcome always in mind, and not being focused on the doing, on the present, on the being, on what's right there in front of us, then we create a huge amount of internal stress for us, and we just feel that pressure of, being pushed around and being completely out of control in life. So Eckhart Tolle, he, in his book, which is so great, A New Earth, he describes this really well, this distinction between outer purpose and inner purpose. Because I feel that so many times we're also trying to look for a purpose in life, and I catch myself so often doing this, looking for a purpose, like, something really significant to do. And to some degree, I think that's helpful, but I start to increasingly realize that this is a big illusion. Even if you talk about, like, a good purpose, like, oh, I'm doing something good for humanity, I'm, offering yoga programs, because they help people to wake up and to live more consciously. That's a great purpose, but if it becomes like, something that I do because I need it, and I derive my happiness from it, it becomes a trap. And even the best purpose, if it's something that we start to depend on, then it becomes a trap and it will never actually deliver what we're trying to get out of it. So if I, offer yoga programs because I think it's just what's needed, and I just do what's needed because anyway I feel like, joyful within, it's a completely different story. If I do it with that intention of getting something from it, it'll be a trap. And so it'll be with every other purpose in life, whether it's, to find a partner, to get a better job, to have more material abundance. Nothing wrong with any of that if it comes like as a natural consequence out of our inner state, as opposed to something we try to chase, and once we get it, it will never give us what we hope it will give us, because that can only come from within, by applying the tools of the inner world, by using the rules of the inner world. And these tools are basically laid out in the yogic sciences. And there's many different ways, you can do the yogic practices that we teach in our programs, like Surya Kriya, Angamardana, yogasanas, to really get your body into a state where the natural energy flow is enhanced, and it's getting in sync with the universal nature. That's a huge foundation. And there's other inner tools you can do, and that's all really great to get access to that inner dimension, where then the outer purpose is not something that you need to chase. But back to this distinction between inner and outer purpose that Eckhart Tolle so well describes in his book. If I walk over to, let's say, over to the river there, yeah, then my outer purpose or the external purpose is to get to that river. So it's always like an outcome. I want to get to that river. But the inner purpose or the primary purpose for me is always the same. It's like ultimately it's to do whatever I'm doing at that moment. So when I walk over to that river, my outer purpose is to get to that river. It's the outcome. But the inner purpose or the primary purpose is to walk to that river. It's so simple and almost impossible, like almost too easy to grab. But if I walk to that river, my purpose, my inner purpose, is to walk to that river. It's not to get to the river, it's to walk. So when I take my first step, my purpose is that first step. When I take the second step, my purpose is the second step. And so my purpose is always to do what I'm doing in the moment, whatever it might be. If I'm gonna take the trash out, then the external purpose is to have the trash outside the house where it belongs, and to have the house clean. But when I walk outside to take the trash with me, the primary purpose is to take it out, to walk, to take that step, to take the next step. And so that shift is really, really huge. It sounds so, nice, but it's massive. It changes everything, because it changes the entire quality of how we do things. And it also changes the way we perceive every moment. And I mean, what is life? Life is just a number of moments. And have you not realized this when you live a day and you are really busy doing one activity after another, and there's always more activity? When was the last time you completely finished your to-do list? I think let's get rid of that illusion that once we're done we will enjoy and have rest. No, life is a sequence of moments, and the way we perceive life is the way we perceive every single moment, and the quality of our experience is the quality of each moment. And that's huge, that's massive. And the amount of stress that we generate within ourselves is directly derived from that, from how we perceive and live every single moment. So, if we are always in a mode where we just, you have 10 things in mind that you need to do today and you just chase one after another, and when you walk over figuratively to that lake, you just think about being at the lake, and when you walk over, when you go to take your lunch, you just think about the lunch, or do you think about what you need to do? Then you never meet your primary purpose. You're never living that primary purpose of doing what you're doing and being there, present in it. And again, the problem is when we don't stick to that primary purpose, we are not really aware, we're not conscious, we are lost in our mind, and we are not in touch with reality. We are just living in an illusory kind of reality. We're just living in the level of our thoughts, and the thoughts that we generate, they are powerful, but they're not reality. They're just thoughts, and that's so important to distinguish that being in our mind, in our thoughts, it's not reality. It's maybe a kind of model of reality that we're generating, but it's not reality. So every moment we're not present doing what we're doing, but thinking about the outcome. There's a place, when it comes to planning, to think about the outcome, and once in a while to check if we're on track. But if we just always lost in our mind, out of control, that we just keep thinking about where we need to get, and we just keep thinking about our secondary purpose, never being in touch with our primary purpose, never being in touch with that moment, then we cause stress, we cause an inner state that is not filled with joy, that is not pleasant, that is not feeling abundance, but that is just completely out of sync with everything, that is naturally gravitating and attracting states of fear, of confusion, of desperation, depression. All of that is completely natural because we're not in touch with reality anymore. So, I highly encourage you to try this out. Apart from all the practices that you do, they're powerful and they're important. When you practice Surya Kriya, when you practice Angamardana, Yogasanas, they lay out a super important foundation for your energy system. But we need to bring this in our day-to-day life. Make this a daily practice. So when you do anything from now on, and practice it with the simplest things, because when you can't do it with the simple things, when it becomes more challenging, it'll become even more difficult. So when you walk, try to be aware of your primary purpose and the secondary purpose. What's the secondary purpose? It's to get where you want to go. What's the primary purpose? It's to walk. It's to take this step. Then the primary purpose becomes to take that step. Then the primary purpose becomes to take that next step. So you naturally create a tremendous amount of awareness and consciousness, and through that, naturally, the amount of energy that you experience, it will just explode. And everything you do will be filled with a completely different quality. And at the end, probably, not necessarily, but probably, the outcome will also be much better because the whole activity is filled with a completely different dimension of focus and awareness and joy. And even if the outcome isn't a bit different, or maybe even worse on the first view, then it doesn't matter, because what really matters is how we experience life. That's the important thing to understand. That how we experience every moment is naturally how we experience life, and that's all our life is all about. If you look at anything you do, what you're really trying to do, be honest with yourself. Ask yourself this question: why are you doing what you're doing? And you might come to an answer that you try to do it because you wanna somehow feel good. So if we wanna feel good, we need to do what works. So I invite you to try and practice this distinction between primary purpose and secondary purpose. Read Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth. It's amazing how well he can describe it. And practice this. And yeah, let me know how this goes for you. Please leave a comment and send me your feedback. I love to read it. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, because it's really helpful so that more people can see it. And of course, you're welcome to join any of our yoga programs in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and maybe some more places soon. You can find all those on the website. Guys, I wish you a wonderful week. Let's meet you next week, and see you soon. Bye, guys.